Hello everybody, it's Stephen here for the Idiot Quilter, and welcome to my weekly vlog. And this is episode number 106. And lots of things to talk about today, what I've been working on, what I have finished, you can see that behind me, and of course retreat update news as well, because that's in about 4 days time. So let's get right into things with what's behind me. This is my Celtic Quilt, which you have seen before. And I have it now completely finished. I have it all quilted and I have it bound, and it is done. And I'm really happy with the result, but I want to talk a little bit about the quilting process, and that's where I used this template, which I showed you last week, that I bought from Amazon. It's a meandering kind of pattern, and I did it the whole quilt with this. Now it worked okay. I don't know if I would use it again. The one problem I had with it was these inner pieces. If you see, let's put it this way, you can see they pop up. So you have to be really careful, even though you're using a ruler foot, and this is designed for a ruler foot. When you got around to these inside parts, they would creep up on you as you were going around, and your ruler foot would get caught underneath it, and that presented problems. I think I did break a needle at one point because of that problem. Also, getting them positioned correctly on your quilt so you can do sort of a continuous line of quilting was not that easy. Now, it doesn't come with any instructions. I did look on Amazon. They had a picture of how to use it, and they're basically saying start here, and when you get to this end, pivot it 180 degrees. Okay, that makes sense, and that does work to a certain degree, but I found it was very difficult to keep things straight going across. Now, luckily, this design is very forgiving because I am not straight across this quilt, but I used a light enough thread, and that's why you can't really see the quilting from a distance. If you use a light enough thread for your quilting, no one's going to know, especially with this design, that you weren't perfectly straight all the time. It did make quilting this quilt fairly fast, but I had thought if this had been worked out really well, I would buy more of this type of style, and I might if I can find some that are built a little better. This needed to be a little thicker, okay, just a hair thicker really, and maybe because it's the nature of the design, but this really bothers me. And if this had been a little thicker, I think these would not bend up as readily. So I don't know what to say about it. You might want to try it. It's not horrible. It does work. I found it, well, basically, I think I could have done this free motion myself. Now, that's one advantage of using one of these. It gives you a little bit of muscle memory doing this kind of design. Excuse me. So anyways, the quilt is done and I'm happy with it. Now, just as a side note about this quilt, one of the people that are on the Quilter's Way that I'm on with, and as well, she was asking me some questions about the dimensions of this quilt, the overall dimensions and the dimensions of the flying geese and the dimensions of the center square and things like that. She originally started out with, do I have a pattern for this? And no, I don't. This was made up out of my head. And she asked me a curious question. Well, how do you do that? Well, there isn't really any formula for it. I had this fabric left over from another project. I really like it. It's the Northcott Stonehenge line. Everybody knows about it, I'm pretty sure. It's a very popular line. I just took my scraps, laid them on my table, and started working with them. I had no idea how this was going to end up. The design built itself as I went along. I had to fudge some of the measurements to get them to fit in spots. But I never wrote this stuff down because for me this is a one-off, for one thing. And two, I've tried to write patterns before, and writing patterns is a skill, and it's, you know, it's very time consuming, and I'd rather be using that time working on a quilt rather than writing a pattern. But She is trying to recreate the pattern. She has a background, I think, in mathematical engineering. So for her, the math, you know, she's good at it, obviously. So good luck with that. The only thing is that once you get a pattern done, and it could be developed into a pattern, you know, I fudged some of the borders on here a little bit to make them fit. But because of the design of the fabric, you don't really notice that I, you know, added in a little strip here or there, you know, a coping strip to make things fit. But mathematically, you could redesign this. But here's the thing. After you get the pattern done, I got thinking about this, and I haven't talked to her about this, and maybe I should, or it may have already come across her mind. It's really not the pattern so much that makes this quilt. It is the fabric itself. The fabric itself already has printed on it elements that, when sewn together, give you the pattern. I don't know if that's making sense or not. But for example, if you look down in this corner here, that is not really a pieced piece. Well, it is sort of. But this is a fussy cut square, and then these are strips cut out of some of the fabric made into a border, and I mitered the corners on that. So I made those blocks that way. If you were to put that into a pattern, and you could, you know, you need, you know, 4 strips this length and this width, you need a center piece, you know, it's still not going to look the same. Because it all depends on the patterning or the fabric itself. So I don't know if it's really worth trying to spend a lot of time making this into a pattern, because there's nothing really outstanding about the pattern. It's the fabric that makes it. So anyways, if she does get one done, I'd be interested in getting a copy of it, though, to see, you know, how it works out in another fabric. Okay, so what else have I been making? Well, I did this little cute thing. This is in the hoop applique, freestanding applique pattern from OESD, where I buy a lot of my patterns online, and it's an umbrella. And I just thought it was really cute. Now, this pattern was on sale. That's one reason why I bought it. And also there are 2 patterns. This is the freestanding applique, and then there's a freestanding lace version, which I haven't got around to making yet, but I am going to make. Now, what are you going to do with it? You're going to say, well, you know, you don't have to do things with these things. You can just put them out and look at them. They're pretty. You know, they give you joy. Isn't there an organizing philosophy that says if it gives you joy, keep it. If it doesn't, get rid of it? Calamari or calamari? No, whatever. You know who I'm talking about. She was all the rage there. I guess she still is. I don't know. Anyways, I have seen this on display as sitting on a table like this full of Easter candies. And, you know, I'm kind of thinking I might do that. Some of those little Cadbury Easter eggs or something like that. I think that would look kind of cute. It would go with my little 3D bunnies that I showed yesterday on my vlog that I did with my 3D printer. But you know, I love making these kind of things, and so that's why I made it. So yeah, it's cute. Okay, so that moves us on to what I made that on. You're going to say, well, you made it on your sewing machine, on your 15,000. No, I did not. Because my 15,000 is no more. Yes, this is finally the end of the story. So, I quilted this quilt on the 15,000. I had numerous thread breaks. I blamed it on that template that I was using. But I wasn't completely 100% sure that that was my main problem, because I could feel things happening with the bobbin as well. I did some embroidery last week before I worked on that umbrella, and I had problems again. Since I've gotten the 15,000 back, after it went in for its little spa week, it was working okay. I didn't do any embroidery on it though. I was using it because I was busy with some other projects. I did notice though that it didn't feel quite right. I can't put it into words, but you know, when you start working with this sewing machine and you've had the sewing machine for a while, you get this synergy. I don't know if that's the correct way of using that word, but you know, a combination, you and the machine are one in a way. Whoa, this is starting to sound philosophical, isn't it? But you know the feel of your machine. You know the sounds your machine makes and things like that. And so it's almost intuitive that when something's not right, you kind of get you know. And that's the feeling I was getting with that machine. So then I did some embroidery and all hell broke loose. I think I mentioned this to you. I wrecked two bobbin cases. Again, same problem, pulling them up, knocking the hell out of them and everything. The last time it did that, I decided, okay, fine, let's just go back to regular sewing, put in my regular bobbin for that, and it wasn't seating properly. It was like the whole platen or whatever holds the bobbin case in had dropped or loosened or something, but the bobbin was not, no matter what I did, I couldn't get it to sit properly. So I said, okay, I'm done. Now you've heard me say that before, but this time I was really done. I investigated two machines, the 9450 Janome and the Continental M7. Both are great machines. The M7 is a little bit more expensive. I went online to Shirley's store, Ultimate Sewing, because of course she deals in all these machines. And the difference between the 9450 and the M7 was about $2,000. Of course, neither one of those machines embroiders, so I'd need an embroidery machine. So of course I'm looking at the Janome 550E. The 550E was running about $3,000. As well. Now, Shirley's prices online are not the prices that Shirley sells those machines for. Okay? Those are the prices that Janome says she has to put up, but she can make you a deal. Okay? Shirley's really good at that. So, you know, as an aside here, if you want a Janome machine, a new machine, and you're checking out Shirley's online store, and her link is in my show notes, give Shirley a call to find out what it's really going to cost you, because it's going to be less, a little less than what's online. So anyways, I worked it all out. If I got a 9450 and the 550E, it was going to cost me close to $10,000 by the time tax hit it. If I went for the M7, then it was going to cost me closer to $11,000. Okay? Do I have that kind of money just laying around? Well, no, not really. Okay. I have funds that I save up for, well, they're for emergencies, they're for future trips, things like that. I don't like to dip into those funds. I'm one of those really, you know, one of those kind of people that can save money, you know, and I have earmark accounts for different things. This was not in an earmark account, but yes, I could pay for it. But then I got thinking, what's the cost of my mental health? Because yes, and you've heard me say that before about the Janome, it is costing me something on my mental health. I mean, you're supposed to have fun when you sew. You're not supposed to sit there and worry, break out in a cold sweat, especially when you're doing embroidery on the 15,000. Think, will I get through this project? Will I have another disaster? So I decided, nope, my mental health is worth more than that. So I went in to see Shirley. And I said to Shirley, and Shirley goes, oh, hi guys, how's everything going? Walter was with me. And I said, well, Shirley, not so good. And I could see the fear in her eyes. And she knew before I even opened my mouth that my problem had to do with the 15,000. And I said to her, Shirley, I'm done with the machine. Told her what I just told you about it and some other things. And I said, so I've made up my mind. I want an M7 and a 550E. What's it going to cost me? Now, Walter had said to me too that Shirley takes in trade-ins as well and gives you something on the trade-in. But I figured Shirley doesn't want this 15,000 because how many times has it been fixed and repaired and it never, it just doesn't work. anymore. So I wasn't even going to mention that to her, because I felt, why should I get money for something that's busted? And that even if she tries to fix it and recondition it, is she really going to want to sell it to somebody else? You know, I mean, Shirley stands behind her products that she sells. And, you know, this machine has been a headache for her as well as for me. So anyways, she says, yes, she had one M7 in stock still. She didn't have a 550E in stock, but they're a little bit on back order. However, I can use Walter's, and that's what I did with the umbrella, as he's not using his right now. He's busily making a jacket, I think, now in garment sewing. And yeah, so I said, what's the price? Now, I can't share this price with you because I don't think it's fair to tell you what the price was that she gave it to me, because there are extra extenuating circumstances with this. But let's just say I was in shock in a good way. In fact, I said to Shirley, that's all? She says, well, you can pay more if you want to. I said, no, no, no. I'm not going to complain about that. Now, she did give me something for trading in the old 15,000, which today or tomorrow I've got to take in to her. But I came out of the store a very happy camper with my M7 and with a 550E on order. Now, you're going to say, well, why did you buy the more expensive sewing machine? The M7, I said, was a couple of thousand more than the 9450. Well, here's why. The M7 has the largest throat, 13.5 inches, of any domestic machine Janome makes. My 15,000 only had 11-inch throat. Now you're going to say, but it's only 2.5 inches. Yeah, 2.5 inches makes a difference. Size counts. Okay. It is a machine that has been built for quilters as well. It has, its extended table is wide, really wide, and it's got some features on it that are also there for quilters too. Now, I am working on another quilt, which actually is sort of the sister quilt to this one, because it was some more of that fabric with leftovers, but my circle in a square quilt, which I used my circular sewing tool on the Janome for that. That just reminds me, I wonder if I can use that on the new machine. I think I can. I'll have to check it out. But I'm quilting it right now on the M7, and I want to tell you something. Although I'm just doing a form of walking foot quilting, I'm loving it. I worked for about 3 hours yesterday on the quilt, quilting it with the M7. I did not have one problem in terms of tension, in terms of thread breaks, anything like that. That larger throat, well worth the money. I'm now in love again, so far, with the M7. The 550E, I'm using Walter's, but it's a good machine. And here's the thing. Here's where I think the crux of all of this comes down to. And Walter and I have discussed this many times over. The Janome 15,000 is not a bad machine if all you're going to do is sew with it, or if all you were going to do is embroider with it. The problem lies in the fact that it does both. Now, I know there are some of you out there that have other brands of machines that are a combination, and you haven't had any problems with it whatsoever. And I'm happy for you. Don't throw that up in my face. I've had a few people who have thrown that up in my face, like it's almost like, la-di-da, I have this brand of machine and it's a combo and I use it all the time and it's never ever given me any trouble. Nah, 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 nah. Well, that's what it sounds like. I don't think they really mean it that way. But when you've got the two things doing one in one machine, when one thing gets adjusted or fixed, the other thing is out of alignment. It's in my theory. I'm not a service technician. I think Roy, who's an excellent service technician that works for Shirley, I think he did his absolute best because I really trust Roy. But he's probably happy that I'm not bringing that machine in anymore either. So what I've learned from this is, I think, I don't care what brand of machine it is, I think if you're a power user, yes, I am a power user. You have heard me say that many, many times before. Shirley even called me that. Shirley said to me when I was talking to her about the new machines and everything, she says, you know, you use your embroidery machine 3 times or more than any other person she's ever sold one of those machines to. Yes, I do. There isn't a day goes by when I'm not sitting at that machine and using it. And yes, I put it through its, you've heard me say this, I put it to its extremes, but they say that, but I'm not doing anything that Janome says it can't do. I'm within their parameters. So the point is, I use it all the time. They're betting on the fact that a person only occasionally embroiders with it or whatever, not somebody like me. So where's that leading me to? Yeah. So I think if you're looking for an embroidery machine and you're thinking about getting a combo, don't, in my opinion. Get 2 separate machines. The other advantage I'm finding right now is having 2 separate machines is I can be sewing on the one machine and the other one can be doing embroidery. I don't have to like one or the other, which I think is a good thing. Yeah, sure, I've got another sewing machine, well, another couple of sewing machines, and what I would do is while the 15,000 was embroidering, I would work on one of the other machines, but it's not the same, especially when you have a machine that is more of a specialty machine like the, say, the M7 that's meant for quilters. I want to be using that when I'm working on my quilts, not my S7, although I could work on my quilts on the S7. Okay, so yeah, I'm hoping this is the final chapter in the ongoing saga of the Janome 15,000. I am done with it. I am very pleased right now at this moment in time with what the setup is that I have now with the 2 new machines. So now you're up to speed. So speaking of the 2 machines, I thought today I would make a little video showing you both of these machines. Actually, I'm showing you more the M7 because the 550E I think most people know more about. But here's my it's not really a review because I don't compare it to anything except the 15,000. I'm just showing you why this is a machine that's built for quilters. Instead of a demo this week, I thought I'd show you my 2 new machines. This is the Continental M7 by Janome, and this machine is large, as you can see. It has a really large extended table that it comes with, and the throat is 13.5 inches. So this is going to make quilting on this machine much easier than what I was used to on the 15,000. Now, of course, it's got a big screen, a very large screen, and very clear with everything on it that you need. And the thing that makes this machine a little bit more unique beside the size of it is what you can do with this screen. If you go to here, you can see that it has stitch selection, quilt block advisor, machine information. Now, I have not yet played with these settings very much, but let's go into the quilt block advisor. So here it's got some of the basic quilt designs, 9-patch, mosaic, lemon star, log cabin, grandma garden, baby block. And I think that's the only ones it has on here. But if you click on these, let's go to the 9-patch. It shows you the dimensions with your 1/4 inch seam allowance. It shows that A1 is a 2.5 by 2.5 inch square. And over here, it's showing you the number of rows. Now, it's 3 rows, of course, of 3 pieces each. And it's got the A2 patch too. So those are your colors. Basically. So 2 colors in this 9-patch, very basic, and the total width is 6 inches, and I believe that would probably be 6 inches finished. Now, if I want to make it bigger, I can just click on this, 6.5 inches, 7 inches, I'm not sure how high it goes. Let's see. Probably goes right up to about, no, it goes 9.5 inches is the largest. And as I was changing that, it changed the dimensions of the square. So it's telling you need, for a 9.5 inch, you need 3 5/8 inch squares for it. Now that's rows. If we increase the rows, to 6 rows, I'm still at 9.5 inches, but this is showing me that I now need a 2 1/16 of an inch square for that number of rows, and the number of pieces for A, I need 18, and for A2, need 18. So this might be very helpful in figuring out some basic things. Of course, this one only has these number of quilts on it. So there's a mosaic showing your half square triangles, lemon star, showing you here what you need. Now, there's a little QRC code, or whatever they call that, in the corner, and if you put your camera up to that, you will be taken to a site that tells you more about how to create these particular blocks. But I think that's kind of neat. I don't know if it's that useful for an experienced quilter, but for a beginner it might be okay. Now this whole machine is based upon this kind of information system that's here, and as I said, I haven't played with it much. That's the stitch thing, and it's got a lot of other features on it. It doesn't come with a lot of decorative stitches. Now let's see if I can get into decorative stitches here. Probably that one. So you have your applique, your heirloom, quilt, satin, bridge, decorative, long, pictograph, play, and created stitches. So you can create stitches on this. You could do that with the Janome 15,000 as well. See the pictograph. So that shows you here some various ones. So, it doesn't have as many decorative stitches as the 15,000, but for me, it's got more than enough because I don't use decorative stitches very often, if at all. Let's go back to home. The other thing that I like about this machine is it has more feed dogs, which helps if you're doing something that's on a point, on a diagonal. It helps pull the fabric through a little bit more evenly so you don't have it sucked down into the machine. And what else is kind of neat is the plate, the presser plate, because let me see, if I go here and I hit this button, watch what happens. It lifts up automatically, and it tells you too that there's a warning. It's got a lot of warnings on this machine. And it says make sure your proper foot's in. Now it just pulled my plate back down because it has a timer on it, but normally I would be popping that plate right out and putting another one in, and it's all done magnetically, so that's kind of nice as well. You can adjust the stitch length and the stitch width using knobs, but you can also do it in the machine itself as well. So, and if you have questions, they've got some quickie tutorials. For example, winding the bobbin. So it comes up with the instructions on the screen for this, step by step, and shows you what to do. So it has all the basic functions: threading the machine, buttonhole settings, replacing the needle plate, attaching the dual feed holder, replacing the needle, all right there on screen. And again, you can go into this code, and there's an application called AccuSpark that works with this as well, that gives you even more information about all kinds of things. Actually, it's very, very handy when you're trying to choose needles or trying to figure out how to run your machine and do different things. So I'm really quite impressed with it so far. I've done a little bit of sewing on it. I only just got it, and so far I really like it. It's got great lighting under here, as you can see, which is really nice as well. So the real test of this is going to be when I come to quilt on here, and I'm going to do that later in this week, and I'll let you know what happens. Now, the other machine that I bought, since my 15,000 was both an embroidery and a sewing machine, I now have a separate sewing machine and a separate embroidery machine. Now, this is the Janome 550E. This is not actually my machine. This is Walter's machine. Mine's on back order, and I'm supposed to get it in another couple of months, in May or something like that, maybe sooner. It is a big machine, and that's why I have a board underneath it, because for the biggest hoops on this, I have to pull that away so that the hoop doesn't hit the backsplash I have here. I have limited space, as you know. But I've already been using it and trying it out because Walter's busy making his garments. And he said, you might as well play with it until yours comes so you get the feel for it. And, he hasn't had any problem with this machine, and he's had it for well over a year and a half or so. Not like the problems I had with the 15,000. So I'm looking forward to 2 different machines, which actually kind of is not a bad thing, even though it takes up space. Is the fact that I can be sewing on my M7 while I'm embroidering on the 550E, whereas I could only do one or the other on the 15,000. So those are my new toys, and I'll keep you up to date as to my experience with them, and I hope my experience is positive and not like the experience I had with the 15,000. So as the weeks go by and I work more and more with those new machines, I'll let you know on how things are going. But I'm excited. It's got that new machine smell. Okay, so I have been working on a mystery quilt with my ex-guild. I'm still a member, so each month I still get, and I better get them all, even if I don't rejoin the guild. I say if. I'm not going to rejoin the guild, but I paid my money, so yeah, they got to give me all the other instructions. But anyways, we're on about week 3 or month 3 because the new instructions come out every month. And I thought I'd show you what the pieces look like. Now, I thought I was being very clever, and I went online and I thought I found what the final product looks like. I think I am wrong about that. And actually, I'm kind of happy I am wrong because I really didn't like it. So we'll see. But I'm going to show you the pieces that I have right now. Doesn't show us what the quilt's going to be like. It's a mystery. So I have some pieces that look like this. And I have some pieces that look like this. And I have some straight pieces that are just straight pieces. Then I had this really big one, which is one of the first things in the instructions to make. I have several of these. And then, of course, there's the inevitable half square triangles in here. And then this is the first thing that was made into like an actual block, which it's a star, and that makes me happy because you know how I like stars in quilts. So that's what I've got so far. There's multiple pieces of all of these, of course. I have no idea what this is going to look like, but I'm getting kind of excited about it, especially now that I have figured out it is not going to be the one that I saw online, which I hated. So yeah, that's as far as we've gotten so far, so I'm looking forward to next month's instructions when that comes about. So I'm just going to pause here for a second because I want to put these pieces back in their bags. They're all in like baggies marked, with what piece it is. It tells you that in the instructions to do it, and I really don't want to get them mixed up, so I'll be right back. Okay, everything's put neatly back in its place so I don't get all screwed up. And that takes us now to the subscribers quilt of the week. This is someone who's a regular subscriber here, regular viewer of all my channels, and that's Jeannie. And Jeannie has submitted to me before, but her work is so beautiful and unique that she has submitted something else, and I'm going to insert it right here so we can all enjoy Jeannie's work. This week's subscriber quilts come from Jean Eubanks, or as I like to call her, Jeannie, and she has submitted some things before, but it's always nice to see her creations because they're so unique and very, very lovely. And she writes, "You asked for pictures of more quilts." I did indeed. Here are a runner and 2 quilts I made in memory of my beloved sister Carla, who died in 2014. Pink, purple, and maroon fabrics in the blocks are made from her clothing. Other fabrics were blenders. The first quilt belongs to my sister Andy. It was made using an apple core template because Carla, Andy, and I used to pick apples on an orchard. The second quilt belongs to our sister Dale. It's a rail fence set on point. And the third quilt is a runner I made for our friend Bruce, who was very kind to Carla. The quilt block is called Bachelor Buttons. He displays it across the bench of his grand piano. And they're all very, very lovely. And what's really unique about them too is making a quilt out of somebody's clothes as a memory quilt. I have not ever done that, but maybe someday down the road I will. So thanks, Jeannie, for this next submission, and I look forward to seeing more of your creations. So in the show notes I have things that are important that you should check out, links to the Ultimate Sewing, of course, and I have a link to the shop of this week, which is called Kawartha Quilting and Sewing. I'm going to talk about that in a minute or two. And I also have a link to a YouTube video that I have found very helpful called Laundry Basket Quilts. And this is a site that I used to watch on a regular basis. I have not watched it as often. I go to it every now and then. As I said, I've found that I was subscribing to so many different quilting and sewing YouTube channels that I couldn't keep up. And then I have decided now I'm going to be selective. When I see what their topic is for the week or for the latest video, I determine whether or not that's important to me. And I will watch it if I feel there holds some interest for me. And that's what I do with Laundry Basket Quilts. But if you're into quilting and just gotten into it, or even if you're experienced, it is a good YouTube channel to check out. She has some really neat designs. I think she does some blocks of the month kind of things. She does have patterns that she sells, and her patterns are really quite nice too. Now, I've never bought one of her patterns, so I can't really comment upon how well they are written, but I know she's very, very popular, so I suspect that, you know, most people find them very clear to follow. So you might want to check it out. I have put the link in the show notes, and I've put a link to not just the YouTube channel, but to the website as well, because there's a lot of really good information there, and that's where you can buy some of her products too. I am not sponsored by her. I am not sponsored by anybody, okay? As I said, I only share things with you that I like, you know. So if I'm mentioning it, then I like it, and I hope you will too. Okay, so let's move on to one of the projects I have not yet started working on, but I have started to organize it. And this is from a Canadian designer, and it's a man, and it's called Strong and Free. I'm just going to take the pattern out of the plastic bag to see if I can cut back on glare. And maybe I have, maybe I haven't. Actually, this side's less glare. Okay, this is the quilt. It's called Strong and Free. Obviously, it appealed to me because of its Canadian content. I mean, it can't be any more Canadian than this, can it? Red, white, and a maple leaf. And the designer is his name is Paul Leger, and he has designed this with Northcott fabrics, and he's designed it for the Quilts of Valor program. That's the program. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's across North America, both Canada, the United States, and possibly other places in the world, I don't know, where basically people donate quilts that they make, and these go to veterans. So he has designed this. Paul is located in Ottawa. He's also the leader of the Facebook group that I belong to, the Canadian Male Quilters group. And yeah, so I want to support him. I want to support Quilts of Valor, and I love the pattern. So I picked this up. I have not made it yet, which I've already said, but I'm going to show you the fabrics. Now, I am not going to use all the fabrics that he has recommended, because some of those fabrics are not as easy to get. But I'm going to show you what I've picked. And essentially, it's only two patterns, or two fabrics. This one and this one. And to show you this again. So you can see there's a light background, so that will be this fabric. And there's the dark red background, and it'll be this fabric. These are all Northcott fabrics that I am using, just not the ones that he recommends. And Yeah, I forget what he recommends. I'd have to look in the pattern again, but it's okay. You could make this pattern in any color scheme that you want, really, if you like the design of it. I mean, of course, it's Canadian themed, so I'm using Canadian colors, but I think this would look really nice in some other colors too. You could make this in sort of fall colors because it's a maple leaf. If you don't want the idea of like it being themed for Canada, you could go that route as well. I didn't realize it, but he told me on one of the days that we were having a sewing day with the group that this is actually a pieced pattern. I didn't realize that, and he does explain. I think he has a link. I'm just looking here how this works. Yeah, he's got a link. It says the half maple leaf template is printed on 16 sheets of letter size paper and will need to be printed from the following link. So he's given a link for this, and he's showing you the layout of it. I didn't realize that when I first looked at it, so this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Not that I haven't done paper piecing before with it. I have. So yeah, you got to break outside of the box every now and then, don't you? So that's one of my projects on my design wall that I'm hoping to get to before the year is over. I'm really concentrating my efforts right now on trying to get all my UFOs quilted and out of the way before I start another major project. But I know me, I'm going to start on a major project before I get those all done because I'll get bored. Okay, so that, and something else I bought new. You remember this book that I purchased a few weeks ago, Encyclopedia of Pieced Quilt Patterns, 3rd edition by Barbara Breckman. And that's the one that has over 5,000 different blocks and catalogs them all and everything like that, and the history of them. Really a great book. If you are I'm trying to get the glare off, if you are a quilter, this needs to be in your library. But what else needs to be in your library is the companion piece for electric quilt. Now, if you don't have electric quilt, actually you can use this. It doesn't have to be an electric quilt. It's a standalone program, I believe. It's called Block Base. Now, this is not the box. I bought this a couple of years ago when I first got EQ8, and it's an addendum to EQ8. It has a whole bunch of other blocks on it, and it works with EQ8. But they've come out with one called Block Base Plus, which has all of these in electronic format. These are all referenced by numbers as well as names and things. So you can just plug this program, plug that number into this program, it'll come up with the block. And just like Electric Quilt does, you can print out the rotary cutting instructions or the piecing instructions, foundation piecing instructions, that kind of thing. Right now, because I bought the book, I got 40% off, and they just came out with this. And if you have the book, apparently right up until the end of December, they will give you 40% off the program. Is it a cheap program? Not particularly. Without the 40% discount, I think they're listing it at $119 American. It cost me, with the 40% off, it's about $70 American. It ended up costing me I think just about 95 or 96 Canadian dollars, and it's a downloadable program. That's why I don't have a box for it. So I did. It just came out. I bought it, I downloaded it, I installed it. Very easy to install it. EQ8, the Electric Quilt Company, show you exactly how to do that. It's very, very, very simple. And yeah, it's the companion piece to the book. So, you know, in for a penny, in for a pound. You might as well have the complete set. You know, that's how I buy fabric. Ooh, I like that one. I might as well get the whole line. So anyways, I have that. I haven't really used it. I played around with it a little bit. There's some good tutorials that they have on Electric Quilt on how to use it. Again, very, very easy. But I will be investigating that further. So combination of that book and the software means that basically any block I see that I like, I can make. Okay. So what's that take me to now? Let's see. Oh, yeah. My quilt that I'm going to critique this week. If you like kitties, You're going to like this. So this week I'm going to critique this small lap quilt that I actually made this for one of the ladies at my mother's nursing home. But I have not been able to go into the nursing home for almost a year because of COVID, and my mother no longer shares this room with this lady. And because of this lady's condition, her mental health, I don't know if she'd really understand what I was doing by taking this quilt into her, because she would think I probably am a stranger. So I don't know. I may still take it over nevertheless at some point in time when I can go back in and physically visit my mother, or I might make this for my mother, leave this for my mother's bed, or I might just hang on to it. I really love the fabric, and that's why I designed this. This is my own design. This is not a pattern, and I call it the Kitty Quilt because, as you can see, there are kitties on it, and I really love cats. And this lady that I was thinking of giving it to, I noticed in her room she had a picture of her cat, which is still alive but is being looked after by relatives, I guess, now. And I had a feeling she might miss her kitty, and that's why I made this quilt. So as I said, I don't know for sure whether I will deliver it to her or what will happen. But in the meantime, let's take a look at this one. Now, as I said, it's my own design, and I based it around this fabric that I found at Ultimate Sewing one day, and I just had to have it. Didn't have a plan for it, but I never have a plan for it. Now you will notice that my blocks are basically star blocks. I believe these ones are called Sawtooth Star, and because I have a fondness for stars in my quilt designs, that's why I picked that. And I picked the colors. Some of them are batiks, and some of them are just solids, or Rita's solids. And I picked purples and blues because I pulled those right out of the design of the focal fabric. Now let's take a look at these Sawtooth Stars and see if I got things right. Well, my points are pretty good. They're, for the most part, they are there. They are not chopped off. So that is a good thing. Now I'm noticing right here where I joined up this block or this row with this row, I'm off just by a hair on the seams. So again, I put that down to possibly my cutting maybe not as exact as it should have been, or I just didn't get things lined up well. Now the opposite corner, however, where is it? Let's focus in. Sorry, I'm moving all around because I'm trying to look through the viewfinder and find it. Where is it? Oh, there it is. Now that one matches up. So I would say it's probably either my cutting or I do not use a scant 1/4 inch. Everybody talks about the scant 1/4 inch. I suppose I should be using it, but I never do because I never think of it when I start quilting or start putting my piecing together. I might have been able to avoid that problem if I'd used a scant 1/4 inch. But for the most part, I am very pleased with each one of these blocks. They are pretty much dead on. Now I added sashing between these blocks, and yeah, sashing is sashing, and it looks like they all line up pretty good. A little off here. Okay, so you see here, matching it with that. Again, yeah, I'm off here too. I don't think I marked on the sashings as I was going down to line it up, and I should have. Luckily, the fabric itself is pretty busy, so you don't really notice that. But I know it's there, and you know it's there now. Now, what else did I do? I put a border on it in this purple, and it goes quite nicely with it. And I'm looking now at my binding. And for the most part, my stitching's pretty straight on that until we get down here. And then I got a bit of a wow. Don't know how that happened, but I did. My corners, yeah, that's not a bad miter, although I'm not that thrilled with the sewing right there. But that one's pretty good too. And as I look above to the other ones, they're all pretty good as well. Now let's talk about the quilting. I really love the quilting on this. I wish I could take credit for doing this myself. Well, I did do it myself, but I had a lot of help from my embroidery machine. This has actually been done in the hoop in my embroidery machine, and it's an edge-to-edge design. And that one came out pretty good. And I don't know, I maybe should have used a more subtle color than this light blue to blend it in a little bit more, but because I have light blocks and dark blocks, you know, like really dark blocks, anything else seemed to disappear completely in it, and I did want the quilting to show. So the quilting, in my estimation, is kind of dramatic, but that's okay because I'm kind of liking that. I especially like it the way it shows up in the borders of this as well. And that was all done in the embroidery machine. So that's good. Now, when you get to a quilt, the next size up from this, then it gets a little bit more difficult to use the embroidery features of your sewing machine to do edge-to-edge quilting. But a size like this is fairly manageable. Let's take a look at the back. And there you can see the focal fabric because I used it as the backing, and I do have a label on this one as well. And it looks pretty good. I am not seeing any tucks back here. That always makes me happy when I see that kind of thing. So overall, I really love this quilt. My own design, and it still may be a gift because after all it's doing is sitting on a chair in my house. So we'll see. But I still really love it. Okay, so that takes us to the online fabric store of the week. And it is called Kawartha Quilting and Sewing, and their website is in my show notes. They have an excellent selection of wide back fabrics. They are not so much a real quilt store. Well, they are a real quilt store, but they really focus upon long arm quilting. And they have a long arm quilting service, and they will do your quilt for you. And they sell long arm supplies and threads and things like that. But they do have a lot of wide back fabric. Prices range anywhere from about $25 to $35 a meter, depending on what you pick. I have been to the actual physical store myself, and I have bought some wide back fabric from them because I really like the selection that they have. They have a good selection of threads. They have most of the major brands that you would want: Aurifil, Glide, Superior, things like that. And they do sell AccuQuilt accessories as well. So if you're into the AccuQuilt thing, lack of a better word, then you might want to check that out as well. They primarily deal in Gemmell long arm machines and Brothers sewing machines, but they also have other products. They do have some Kimberbell embroidery products, which I've never really used any of the Kimberbell products, but I know they're very, very popular. And their prices are for everything are fairly reasonable. Their wide back fabric I find a little bit on the pricey side when I compare it to, of course, Ultimate Sewing. But they have a good selection, as I've already said. Shipping in Canada, it seems to be fairly reasonable. Outside of Canada, they do not list. I think you need to contact them. Their contact information is on the website to find out what that's going to cost you. Now, I will admit, I have never ordered anything online from them. I've been to the actual store itself. I found their service people, though, in the store very friendly, very nice, very accommodating, and I have a feeling that their online service would be the same. So it's another selection in your arsenal of, you know, buying electronically. Okay, so that brings us up to a retreat update. If you've signed up for the retreat, I hope you're excited. I'm excited about it. I'm a little frustrated with it too right now, I will admit that. And I talked about that yesterday on my vlog a little bit. But everything is in place. We're ready for this coming Saturday, March the 20th, for the retreat. I have sent out to all of you that are registered for it the information about signing in. I sent out another quickie email yesterday as well, later in the day, because I'd had several people ask me about the Zoom link, which I sent out in the more major update on yesterday, asking me about a password because they had been on Zoom things before and they needed a password. You don't on this one. I have a waiting room. What that means is when you first connect, it'll say the host is, or that you are waiting for the host to sign you in or to admit you. And that's the waiting room. And this is a check for me to, one, see who's there, and I can check you off my mastered list. And two, to make sure somebody somehow isn't trying to get into this that is not registered. Because, you know, we have limited space for this. So that's my system of security on here. So when you sign in, be patient. I will book you in as quick as I can. It's not going to take me hours. It's only going to take seconds, really. But that's why there isn't a password. So no, I didn't forget to send it. You don't need one. I have had a fair number of cancellations because life happens. And I have filled those spots with people on the waiting list. That was the point of having the waiting list. Now, essentially, I had said that the deadline for letting me know that you had to cancel was yesterday. I have a feeling I'm still going to get some last minute ones. And if I do, well, there's not much I can do about it. So what I'll simply do is do what I have been doing. I will replace that person with somebody on the waiting list. Of course, it's now going to become a last minute thing. And if you're on the waiting list and you get, you know, in the next couple of days, suddenly you're told you're in, just let me know by an email back that yes, great, you're going to be there, or nope, it's too late now, you made other plans. Okay, that's fine. My goal is to have every spot filled, that I can accommodate everybody according to their needs. But as I mentioned yesterday on my vlog, I know there's going to be some people who just will be no-shows for whatever reason. I'll be honest, and I'm always honest with you. That'll get my goat. Okay, that'll get my goat. I'm working very, very hard on this. I want this to be pleasant for all parties involved. Okay? There's a lot of behind the scenes work in this, and I went over that yesterday in the vlog if you're interested. There's bound to be some glitches. There's bound to be some things I could do better next time because this is the first one and that's how you learn. But I'm trying to keep all of those things to a bare minimum. I want things to go smoothly. People who are no-shows, well, if I run one of these again, I will know who those people are. I will make a note next to their name on my master registration list. And as I said yesterday in the vlog, they may not get an invitation to the next one if there is one. I'm sorry, that may sound really hard-hearted or whatever, but, you know, once burned. Now, I know there are things that happen at the last minute that are way beyond our control, and I get that, I understand that. And I'm sure those type of people would probably send me a message letting me know that this has happened and it's beyond their control. And yeah, I would definitely sympathize with them for that. But the ones you hear nothing from, no. But we'll wait and see. Let's not borrow trouble until it happens, shall we? So I'm all ready for this. Walter's all ready for this because he's my co-host. And yeah, we've had a technical rehearsal to see how all the equipment's working because I'm using multiple screens for all of this. Not that you will see it when you're on there, but it's for me to make things run as smoothly as I can. It's going to be a busy, busy day for me. In fact, so busy, I don't think I'll be sitting down at my sewing machine with it. But that's okay. That's all right. I'm not worried about that at all. So, yeah. So I'm looking forward to March the 20th, this coming Saturday. Oh, and I've had a few people say too, oh, they didn't realize that we were starting so early. See, people out on the West Coast, of course, we're starting at 9 o'clock. Sign-in starts at 8:30 actually, but the official start time is 9 o'clock. And they say, well, you know, that's 6 o'clock for them. That's way too early for them to get it. That's okay. I wrote back to those people and said, not to worry. You can log in whenever you want to log in. Okay? If you can't make it right at the official starting time, not a problem, okay? So don't worry about that. I realize that, you know, I can't accommodate all time zones, obviously. So yeah, so if for you, you can't log in until 11 o'clock or something, it's okay. I'll still let you in, no problem. Okay, so I think that's it for me today. Nothing else to really talk about. So we'll see some of you on Saturday. I hope to see many of you again on next week's episode. And don't forget, I have a weekly vlog as well. If you know, it's a little bit more broader in topic than this one, but do check that out. So I want you to have a really great week. I hope you do some crafting, sewing, quilting, whatever. Get your mind in a happy place, and stay healthy, stay happy, stay in, and we'll see you all again next week. Bye-bye for now.